Welcome to the Real Chili Podcast.
And the Golden Eagles of Marquette University in Milwaukee are bound for the Final Four for only the third time ever.
5 seconds left. Marquette down by one, trying to avoid the upset. Blue the drive, the left hand. It's good. 1 second to play. Vander Blue has put Marquette in front by one.
And I want to win every day as basketball players, as students, and I want to win every day, most importantly, as people.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Chili Podcast. I am not your host, Mike Lavender. I am your fill-in host, Pete Worth, along with Pete Mohan. And I know we have become your Marquette off-season pandemic podcast from our previous episode with Brian Henry and Mike Lavender talking all things pandemic. But we're now here with a very completely different episode and welcoming on a very special guest. His name is Duane Wilson, former Marquette basketball player. Duane, thanks for joining us.
Man, thanks for having me.
I kind of want to start it off. We want to keep this kind of a lighthearted and kind of like a nostalgic podcast with you, bring something enjoyable to the Marquette fan base through all we're going through. But I got to kind of ask you, just right off the bat, we'll kind of get these kind of questions out of the way. So you have been playing in Germany for the last few years. Wanted to ask you kind of what has it been like for you kind of from the start of your season this year all the way up until, pretty much all basketball across the world has been canceled?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. Well, actually, this year was my first year because last year I dealt with recovering from the injury, so I just took the year off. But this year, I mean, it was a great run. Everything that happened, I actually was at home about like 3 weeks ago, and I just came back to finding out. We played 2 games? I came back, played 2 games. Man, I left right back to come back home just because of the virus. And Germany, it actually was, it wasn't that bad. They kind of had control over it, but it was other areas of where the city that I was in Nuremberg, Germany, and that's the Bavaria. That's like their main, their capital type of area. They pretty much just shut it down to the point where you can only have less than 1,000 fans at the game. And, with me playing the second division of Germany, most of the guys, that's how we get paid, is by how many fans come to the game and sponsors and stuff like that. So with that happening, it really didn't make sense for the season to continue. And we only had 4 games left and then the playoffs. So basically they just decided to cancel the season for everyone's safety because all the other sports around Germany, ice hockey, soccer, they all were canceling their seasons and sending their Americans home.
Crazy. So when you first got the news that they were canceling the season, how did you react and what was it like trying to just figure out what to do getting home and kind of figuring out what to do with your life?
When I first heard the news, it was it was tough, but kind of a bittersweet feeling because it was a long season. We've been playing games since August and it's March now. So, yeah. My body was getting kind of fatigued and tired. After a while, you start to miss your family. You just kind of want to relax. But also, we were a top 5 team in our league. So we were expected to make a run in the playoffs. So I was kind of upset about that. I really wanted to feel that playoff atmosphere out there. We had great fans. And the city that I was in, like every home game we had, it pretty much was packed and sold out. So then it gets even better during the playoffs from the pictures and what I heard from different people. But, it would have been a cool experience. And it also would have helped my resume, just to say that we made it to the playoffs. And, if we did make a run, that's always good to have on there to show that you're a winner. So, but we had an overall good season. As far as coming home, I was alert to paying attention to what was going on back home. I paid attention to all the news on Twitter. Like they were saying, United States, we were at the time, we was 14 days behind Italy as far as the spread of the virus. So, our GM out in Germany, he was, he was very, very nice about it. He tried to make sure to put our safety first and made sure that we were able to get home. And my family back home kind of panicked a little bit when Trump made the ban because he really didn't put any specifics on it to say, like, whether that was for non-U.S. residents or U.S. citizens. So I had left kind of early. Like, as soon as we found out that he put the ban, I texted the coach like at 3, 4 in the morning, the GM, and asked me if I can get released out my contract. And sure enough, he was he understood the situation, and he let me out my contract and he paid me out for the rest of this month. So that was really, nice of him. Some teams, they won't even pay you out. They just send you home and just be like, you terminated your contract. So, me and him had a good relationship, so they worked out perfect on both ends. And they ended up canceling the league yesterday. They came to a conclusion that they was going to cancel the league since pretty much every other league over there is canceled.
So it sounds like you kind of got out there right at the nick of time. That was nice that they treated you right like that.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
So you are you back in Milwaukee then?
Yes, I'm back in Milwaukee currently.
So what's your since you've been back, what's been your way of getting basketball fixed? Like, it's nothing on TV, no March Madness or anything, and I don't know, like, what the quarantine situation's by you, if you can even get to a gym or anything like that, or like hoop in your driveway or something, or playing 2K or something like that. How are you getting your basketball fixed in the meantime?
Man, just really YouTube. I just seen some on Twitter where their NBA League Pass is free for like the next few months. So they're going to be playing a lot of classic games and reruns. So I'm going to tune into that. And really just YouTube. My son, he actually likes to watch highlights on YouTube. So whenever he's on his iPad, I just sit there and watch it with him. But man, I tried to get a few open runs. I knew a few guys like Deontay Burden and some other pros was back home early. Mm-hmm. We trying to conduct a open run, but right now it's so hard to find a gym. Every gym pretty much is closed at the time right now. So really, that's all you can do is just go on YouTube, pay attention to Instagram and Twitter and see what people are posting. So I see a lot of guys been watching like old high school games, college games, and stuff like that. So that's really way to tune in.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of former Marquette teams in the tournament highlights on YouTube, mostly the wins. It's been a little while. It's been a little while, but it's hard for me if I see like Marquette Davidson or Marquette Miami. If I see those as a YouTube link, I have a hard time not clicking on them. But I see you've also been watching, just from following your Twitter feed, watching some marble racing and some professional tag.
Oh yeah. I seen that. That was like the first thing I seen when I woke up was the little marble thing. That was pretty interesting to check out. That was like the closest thing we'll get to anything competition wise. So
yeah. I'd never seen professional tag before, and I gotta say,
no, I never seen that either. I'm sure you gotta be in good shape.
Yeah, and very flexible, going under those pipes.
Yeah, I don't think I would be able to do that.
All right, well, I want to get into your MU career because that's what our fans I know are kind of be very interested in talking to you. So, you were a celebrated, decorated high school player in Milwaukee, 2 state championships. And when it became time to, kind of choose your college destination, Buzz was at Marquette. He was having a lot of success, following the Dominic James and Jarrell McNeil's years kind of taking over for Tom Crean. So I kind of wanted to know, like, did you always kind of have it in the back of your mind that you wanted to go to Marquette, or was it more your relationship with Buzz, or was there another reason?
I would say it was both. Growing up, being from the inner city, Dominic James, Red McNeil, Wes Matthews, like Wes, he's from Madison, so he was around the same age as my uncle and my cousin. They used to play against the Madison Spartans. My dad coached Milwaukee Swish, or it was Milwaukee Swish, yeah, in DTA, Wisconsin. So it was a pretty dominant Adidas team here. And Wes played with the Madison Spartans. So, I got the chance to see Wes when he was sophomore, junior in high school, and then watched him go on to Marquette. So when he went to Marquette, I always had that relationship, and my dad was an AAU coach, so we always had players Marquette was looking at. So, I was always at the games. Crazy memory I got is I think it was maybe what year did when they beat Cincinnati in the Conference USA Championship?
2005, right?
If it was Conference USA, it was before that. So Pete and I are same age as Jarrell and Dominique.
Yeah, we were freshmen same year.
Yeah.
So it must have been like, I don't know, 04 maybe?
Because I know Diener was on that team. I don't think D-Wade was on that team, so it might have been 04 maybe.
Yeah.
But I remember they won that game, and my godbrother, he had took me on the court and stormed the floor, and I got lost. So like that was like one of my first like memories, with Marquette. I always went to the summer camps with Coach Crean. My mom still got pictures of me with Coach Crean when I was like 11, 12 years old, and he always would joke. It was like, when you turn 14, I'm gonna offer you your first scholarship. But he eventually left, and then when Buzz was there, that relationship already like was built when he first got there. Him and my dad was already in talks because my older cousin Duane Wilson, he was a highly touted prospect coming out. So, we was at Marquette games every weekend, and every day we had practices. And then I had a close relationship with Dominique. He used to come to my uncle's barbershop and get his hair cut. So, he would leave me tickets to the game. And, sometimes I could come to the aisle and just shoot around with him. So I already had that Golden Eagle, spirit in me. So as I got to high school, I was really open. Me and Buzz, we talked a lot. It was like one of my first offers. They offered me and Deontay at the same time. So, that was always in the backyard. So, I'm always have Marquette in my top because that's just the hometown. I've been, on the program since I was 9 years old. So when I got closer to my decision, it really was on Buzz. He really took the time to like invest in me. Like, he didn't miss any of my games as far as like on the AAU scene. Anytime it was a live period, him and Coach Chu was there. And it wasn't like he was sending his assistants. Like, he made sure he was there. He made me a priority. He even took the time out to come have dinner with, the rest of my family, like my grandmother, my auntie, and my uncle, like people that played like an important part of my life. So that was like different and huge. And me and him just had a different relationship. We never really talked about basketball. It was more about after the life of basketball and like getting a degree. So that was just kind of different. I was here for so many schools, and it's just like, I can play you here, or I can get you to the NBA, and it was just a lot of that. So, Buzz kind of separated itself. So that was a main decision. I kind of seen the team that they had there with Vander. I was close to pretty much close to everyone on the team as I got to high school, especially the guys that was from Wisconsin. So, that made my decision easier. And then, they just made an Elite Eight run. Like, who wouldn't want to go to Marquette, and they playing on ESPN every single week? So,
right.
You really can't beat that.
So I got a question about, people talk about like combo guards versus like the traditional point guard. What kind of guard role did Buzz have envisioned for you? Was it a typical point guard role? And then how did that change with Wojo and just finding where you fit as a guard? Because, the definition of what a guard has even changed in the last decade or so. What was that like for you?
With Buzz, it was more of he wanted me to come in and just be, a scoring point guard. Especially, I had no idea he was leaving. So we had, kind of made plans with the assistant coaches of what I was going to work on that summer after my redshirt year. So, I was expecting, kind of to be like a junior in Dominique. I can get 6, 7 assists a game with the players we had, but also I could take over the game with my scoring. So, Buzz was really open to just letting me play my game, so I was really looking forward to that. And then when Wojo came, it was a bit different. He wanted me to be more of a combo. And at the time we had Derek Wilson and Matt Carlino. So, realistically, I was like the third ball handler. So I really just turned into predominantly like a scoring guard. because I mean that first year with Wojo, we had 8 guys. So I mean we basically was on our last tier of guys. So I had a bigger role as my first year, and my first year it was kind of I liked that role. Just because it was my first time on the scene. At the same time, I really wanted to play point guard, so that kind of what led to my decision at the end to transfer schools. Because I'm only a 6'2" guard. I mean, as you see now, it's a lot of guys in the NBA like Lou Williams that are smaller guards that play shooting guard, but wasn't really ideal for me, especially as far as looking at the draft. And I mean, after my redshirt freshman year, we kind of looked at the draft to see. And a lot of people were saying that they wanted to see me play point guard. So then the next year I came back when Henry and Hanif and Tracy and Matt Helt, that recruiting class came in. I was expecting to play point guard a lot, but unfortunately I didn't get to play point guard a lot. So I was kind of still playing just the scoring role. And then I was the sixth man off the bench. So that kind of was like hurting my chances. In my last year, we had so many different weapons. So that was my main reason of going to A&M was to show that I could play point guard and still be able to, display my scoring ability also.
Marquette fans all I think I can say unanimously were fans, big time fans of yours, especially since you were local. I think what we really especially appreciated was that even though you kind of were recruited by Buzz and had this relationship with Buzz, that you did stick it out through, the rough transition years with Wojo. And I was just kind of wondering, because you had that special relationship with Buzz, kind of what was it that made you want to stick around? Was it the possibility to kind of get more playing time? Was it Wojo? Was it just your allegiance to Marquette?
Yeah, it was a lot of decisions that were made into that, and I can go through and tell you. So like one of them was, first with Buzz, when that situation happened, it was, crazy thing is I haven't talked to him since the day he left Marquette. Oh, wow. So Crazy. It was kind of like I was kind of at the time I was heartbroken because we built that relationship and we built that bond, and just for him to come in a meeting and just say like, yeah, I'm going to Virginia Tech. And it was like the year before I came to Marquette, it was rumors that he was leaving for SMU. And, a lot of people were hitting me up like, you sure you still want to go to Marquette? And I'm like, well, I'm going to talk to Buzz myself. Because, we had that type of relationship where I could ask him anything and he'd tell me the truth. And he was like, no, I'm not leaving. I plan to get you guys, meaning me, Juan, John, Jamel, and Deontay. He was saying he planned to get us to graduate or the NBA or whatever the case may be. So, I stuck with my commitment. So when he left, it was kind of like I had like a little bit of bitter towards him. I really, didn't really we never talked again. So I was like, if he was to try to talk to me again, I don't know how I would feel about it. But
yeah, I was going to ask you, do you still feel bitter about that? Because like you guys, especially with your recruiting class, you guys were kind of expected to kind of carry on where that Elite 8 team kind of left off.
Yeah, I had to, I probably forgave him when I left Marquette, and it wasn't even like, it was just more of a me thing. And, me and Juan, we stuck together the whole time. So we would talk about it a lot, like kind of like what if, like we always would think like how good our teams would have been if Buzz would have stayed and Jamel McKay would have stayed and that whole recruiting class would have stuck together. Like it was like top 5 recruiting class. So it was like, why would you leave? But, I kind of had a little bit of hate towards him because it was, at the end of the day, it's a business. As I got older and wiser, I was like, okay, he did it for, business, money, or whatever the case may be for his family. But, it was, I feel like I had to, when I left Texas A&M, when I went to Texas A&M, I tried to let go of everything that happened at Marquette, like the bad stuff, just try to move forward and have a clean slate somewhere. So, like, it was kind of, I forgave him without even talking to him. Chu was a part of that coaching staff, and Chu was a part of the staff at Texas A&M. So, he kind of was like, we were close. So throughout my years at Marquette, he would always shoot me and Juan a text like, I'm watching y'all. I still love you guys and stuff like that. So we kept the relationship. But when I got to A&M, he kind of explained to me more about what happened with the Bud situation. And I was like, man, at the end of the day, it is what it is. We both went our separate ways. It would have been nice if he could have stayed or whatnot and seen what we could have done with that team. I feel like we could have had a special team if Buzz would have stayed. But then also with Wojo, his resume kind of was stuck out to me. Mm-hmm. And then also I sat out my freshman year, so I also had to sit out again.
Right.
And I was like, man, I'm not trying to sit out another year. And like the schools that I was talking to at the time that was trying to get me to leave, it just wasn't like, I just wasn't really feeling sitting out a whole another year. Like I sat out this whole year and it just worked out. And I was like, I'm ready to play and show people what I can do. Like I worked so hard. I don't want to go somewhere and sit out. And then a lot of schools need to have scholarships also. So
what were your 3 years under Wojo like? I mean, you kind of started off your first 2 years getting a lot of minutes. You're a reliable, kind of steady scorer, and kind of as this influx of more scorers kind of came to the team, Marcus Howard, your Rousey, then your minutes and your kind of role started to diminish a little bit. So how were those years for you personally, kind of dealing with that?
My first year, it was up and down as far as like me like being happy. It wasn't about the minutes or playing. It was we were losing. Those nail biter games. We would be top team would come and we'll lose by 6. And we would be thinking like, man, we had one more player or one little more thing, we could have beat them. So it was kind of frustrating. But I had some big games my freshman year, and I really got to show people that I was the same player that was highly touted out of high school, especially some of those big performances and big games on ESPN and stuff like that was great. And then my sophomore year when I came back, at the beginning, I was real excited. We had Henry Ellison coming in, top 5 pick. They was projecting him to be. And, it's a great recruiting class. And we was veterans at the time, me, Juan, and Luke. We was the older guys on the team. So I'm like, okay, I've been playing against Luke since 7th, 8th grade. And Juan, that's like my best friend. So we've been in the gym all summer. And, we went to Italy, it was, we actually had a great, like, camaraderie, like, good team. And we played good out there. And I just feel like it was, we had a lot of talent on that team. And, my stats were pretty much the same as my freshman year. And, I feel like Wojo was trying to get a feel for really like our team. And, sometimes, if you go back and look, you'll see like our lineups changed a lot on that team. Like the first 2-3 games, I started at the point guard, and it was Juwan and Sandy and Henry and Luke. And then when we went to New York and played LSU, the starting lineup might have been, Tracy, Hanif, Sandy, and Henry and Luke, and me and Juwan came off the bench. So, like, it was a constant change in the lineups, but that's just with also Coach Wojo. That was his second year being a head coach.
Right.
So he's still learning, just like we still learning. So, it was really like a learning experience for everybody. A lot of people had like their opinions and stuff and would say so, but like they really don't know what's going on behind closed doors, And that's why I never. Even that third year when I didn't play as much, and like some games I would play a lot, some games I wouldn't, it was tough, like individually, because, I went from being 30 minutes a game guy, double figures, and at the same time, I had NBA dreams too. Like I was big first team all big rookie my freshman year.
Right.
Sophomore year, I was projected to be a pretty good player in the Big East. So then my third year, I'm expecting, the same, but I mean, it didn't work out that way, but at the same time, we were winning. So, I was always raised, even though things aren't going your way, doesn't mean you have to sit around and pout. So, I just tried to make best of the situation. But then again, we had 12 guys on that team that could start on any team. We was really loaded. Like our practices were so competitive. You got Caden Reinhardt, Sandy, Juan, Markus, he only 17 and he's starting to blow up.
We think he's still only 17 in the eyes of Marquette. That's all. That's all we heard about all year. It's funny.
I want to ask you about that second year with Henry for a second, and like I tie it into Markus a little bit now, because I mean the fans can obviously overreact to what they're seeing on TV and stuff like that, but obviously Henry Ellison was like the focal point of the offense that year, and his game was a lot of post up, so it kind of creates the visual from a fan's perspective that that's not the most enjoyable offense to play in if you're a guard. Sometimes responsibility is more just like getting an entry pass to Ellison. Talk about what that's like, and if you think that that's difficult to play when it seems like one guy is the number one option above the other guys.
No, it was certain games. It was different. Certain games, it was new, especially with the older guys on the team, because we were expecting like bigger roles. We were winning like semi before that. We had me and Juan at the guard, so we were expecting a lot as far as like more guard oriented offense. But I mean, at the same time, when you got somebody on your team that's 7 foot, top 5 pick, like I mean, you got to give them the ball.
Sure.
So at the same time, we had to, sit back and think like, okay, he a lottery pick, And in my eyes, I kind of look at it as like the more he do good, the more we go get seen. So like when we played like LSU, the matchup was him and Ben Simmons. But if you go back and look at the stats, Luke had a good game, Tracy had a double-double, I had a good game, Juan had a good game. So like.
I was actually at that game live. I was at that game in Brooklyn. I was hyped for that Simmons-Ellison matchup. I will not lie.
That Simmons-Ellison-Wilson matchup.
Yeah, right. Well, it's mostly just Simmons versus Ellison these days. But as a Pistons fan, I can say that. I mean, I was hyped when we had Henry, and then I was disappointed a couple years later. But I mean, it is what it is. I was having a good time watching those teams regardless. It was great. I mean, you had that big win at Wisconsin that year.
Yeah, we had a big win there. We most definitely could have. I feel like the offense could have been a little bit different, But then again, it's Wojo's second year being a head coach. Like it's a difference from being an assistant under one of the greatest coaches of all time, and then coming to get your own job. Like he's still figuring himself out. He's still figuring his team out at the same time. So, sometimes you got to take chances. So I feel like that's what was probably best for the team. Cause so let's say we didn't get Henry the ball, everybody would be saying like, you got a 7-footer that's playing a 4 that's pretty much unguardable, that can dribble, shoot, post up. Like, you got to give him the ball, but I feel like a lot really played into that. We were still a young team. That was my second year playing. That was Juan and Luke third year. Like we only had guys on that team. We had no senior on that team. I feel like if Steve Taylor might have would have stayed, that probably would have made us a much better team. With you having like that senior leader, and Steve played in the Elite Eight. So he knows what it takes to get there. So like we would have had Steve that year, I feel like we would have been a totally different team. And I just feel like that's always key on every team. Like you always need that senior, because when them gritty games come, that's going to be the guys that's going to get the job done.
What would you say is the difference between Wojo and Buzz from a defensive coaching standpoint? I mean, it's been a lot made about Wojo's defensive coaching lately. I mean, what was the difference there between those two guys?
Man, it really wasn't too much of a difference. I feel like with Buzz, he had more athletes. Like, he had Vander, Derek Wilson. Like, he had dudes that can pick up full court. And with Wojo, his philosophy was like, he's the defensive guru. Like, man, our preseason training was straight defense, like straight defensive slides and working on help defense and talking and picking up full court. Like, everything that he like implemented in us was the things that he did when he played. So you know, you seen how it helped him and got him to where he needed to go. So, like, guys were locked into that. But, you know, their defensive principles weren't too much different. You know, they both wanted guys to pick up 94 feet, being to your man, being to help, you know, different defensive schemes. If somebody's scoring, you know, with Wojo, sometimes we always didn't have a full team. So sometimes you would see us playing 1-3-1. Like when we played, matter of fact, when we beat Villanova, we played 1-3-1. But, you know, they shot like 20, they shot like 21 or 31%, I believe, from three that game. But, you know, it all was dependent on the team and, you know, just their scouting report. But their defensive mindsets weren't too much different. I feel like their offense was different rather than the defense.
What was different between the two on offense?
Offense, if you ever noticed with Buzz, if you go back to when he got there, like his offense was kind of ran through the four-man. If you think about Jimmy was a 4 for Buzz, Lazar was a 4, Jay was a 4, Jamil was a 4. So like those were the guys that was really like almost his leading scorers in a way. So everything was with the four-man trailing. So, you know, four-man controlling, and he either can shoot the jump shot, which them 3-4 guys were good at, or you can just drive the ball, and you always had the mismatch. And Buzz like playing smaller lineups, like CO and Devontae never really played together. But if you look at Wojo, we played Luke and Henry together, two 7-footers.
Right.
But Buzz was more plays 6'8" at the 5.
Lazar Hayward got the ball at the top of the key. You knew it was in.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the same way with Jay and Jimmy and Jamil. And even Deontay, his freshman year, a lot of his plays, he caught at the top of the key and just was ripped left. And then we'll literally do that every single time. That was basically our offense. With Wojo, my first year was kind of more guard-oriented. Like we did a lot of drag screens out the transition, a lot of ball screens, a lot of handoffs. Then when we got Henry, it was a lot of high-low actions and still a little bit of ball screen, but it was more pounded inside. And then if you even look at their team now, it's a lot of ball screens and a lot of stuff for Markus to get shots in Sakar. And, you know, so, like, I feel like his offense now is more, like, guard-oriented. I feel like Buzz was more – he liked the small ball lineups. Mm-hmm. And he really never had as many shooters. You know, them teams were full of athletes. Like, I mean, Jay Thomas was a shooter. Yeah, I mean, you really had no other guys on the team with shooters. Now you got Markus, you got Sakar, shooter. You had the Hausers at a point in time, and then you had Bailey, shooter. So like now, you know, you have so many shooters. So that's really like their difference in their offenses.
So the one team that had probably the most shooters was your last year with Marquette, with Rousey and Howard kind of starting to make his name, and you and Caton, and made your way to the NCAA tournament. Lost to a crazy hot South Carolina team in the first round, but then after your next year, when you did transfer, got to A&M, you kind of, I know you suffered a bad injury through the middle of the year, but the Aggies made it to the tournament that year. You were kind of able to, even though you weren't playing, get a taste of some NCAA victory.
Oh yeah, most definitely. That was a good run. A&M was like a different type of team. That was more of like the team that I was supposed to be on with Buzz at Marquette. You know, a lot of athletes, like dudes that can catch lobs. You know, we got, you know, a few shooters. So, like, that team was kind of like the perfect fit for me for point guard. Like, I'll get an easy 5 assists just by throwing the ball at the basket. You got two guys that's catching every lob. You know, with Robert Williams that played for the Celtics, he catching everything anybody rim. So, it was and that team was more experienced. You know, they had their junior class, Admont Gilder, Tyler Davis, and DJ Hogue. They were juniors, but they freshman year, they went to the Sweet 16. So, you know, they got a taste of it too. So, you know, you had a bunch of guys on that team that all of them played in tournament games. So at the beginning of the year, we was clicking and rolling easily because we had guys that been there and done it before, and we were older. Everybody on that team was 20 plus, and we had a few younger guys, but they still was working their way in. But I mean, the main core group of guys was older, so that helped us a lot.
And you kind of know what all these seniors on Marquette are feeling like right now without being able to kind of play in the NCAA tournament because of that injury that year. So how tough was that for you, knowing that you had a pretty skilled team you were on and you had the role that you kind of always were looking for? So how tough was that for you?
Yeah, it was really tough, man. That might have been like one of the toughest moments or times in my life. You know, I was coming off. You know, my stats were really good. I was just coming off a double game. That was like my second time having a double in college. And, you know, we were top 5 in the country. And, you know, I was a big part of the reason why we were top 5. But it was just when I had went down, it was just so tough. And, you know, they had gave me the option to play or just sit out because initially it was just a partial tear. It wasn't a full tear, so I was still able to play. But I just wasn't the same. But at the same time, I just didn't want to let my teammates down. You know, we had built that bond. I'm like, man, if I can just give you guys 10, 15 minutes and just run the team and be that vet, I'll be cool. But I mean, eventually it got worse. And then it was like, you just got to shut it down. And eventually I ended up fully tearing it. And then I tore my meniscus as well. So, I mean, it was tough, you know, coming from the year I had at Marquette, not playing much, and then coming to a situation where they letting me play point guard and, you know, I'm having a great year, stat-wise and winning-wise as a team. So, you know, a lot of people was predicting us to go to the Final Four. I was really, like, in a depressed state of mind during that whole little situation because it's just like the first 2 years the first year at Marquette, you know, you get hurt. You come back, get your year back, you have a great year. Your second year, you know, you kind of had the same year. Then your third year is not what you expect it to be. And, you know, you go somewhere else where you find a perfect fit and everything's clicking and something that's out of your control just happens. So, you know, you start to question everything and, you know, kind of get discouraged and lose hope because, you know, I was really having like chances like maybe I can be a second round pick or, you know, get picked up by a team for summer league, you know, just based off the talent we had on this team. And it was just like all that just goes out the window. And that whole last year, I just had to rehab. You know, I tried going to Italy. I played with Jamel in the EuroLeague team, and they wouldn't clear me for my knee, so they sent me home. I went to the G League with the Celtics, and they wouldn't clear me for my knee, so then I just, you know, that kind of put me back in that mindset, like, man, I don't know when things will get better for me. So I just kept rehabbing, kept working. You know, things started to come along, and last summer was huge for me. You know, I really didn't get to play any games or anything like that, but open gyms I was in, and coming off of a great year in Germany, where I set myself up to get a better job next year. So, you know, it's been a journey, but it's been full of ups and downs. So, you know, that's always good to have those ups and downs. That's humbling and just make you work harder.
For sure. And Marquette fans will always have your back. We can tell you that for sure. And kudos to you for getting through that journey and leading the Nuremberg Falcons with 18 a game from what I saw, if the stats are correct. So when this crazy shit kind of all unwinds and you can get back there, we'll be keeping an eye on you and wish you all the best.
And maybe a TBT performance sometime in the future too. What do you think about that?
Man, I'm down for that. I already been talking to Joe Chapman. You know, I'll help a lot of his camps. You know, last year I was you know, I practiced with the team a lot, but you know, they had a lot of veterans. So like, you know how that go. Like they got the veterans, you gotta wait your turn. So you know, and you got guys like Diener in front of you. I mean, Diener, that's like one of our favorite Marquette players. So I'm not gonna complain about Diener playing or Jarrell, like them guys I looked up to and still look up to now. So, you know, they made a great run. I watch every single game. You know, I got to practice with them, you know, get the reps in. So hopefully this summer I'll be able to be on the team and, you know, we'll be able to make some of that Marquette magic come back. You know, so we got a lot of talent, a lot of guys on this Marquette alumni team. So
that's right.
You know,
yeah,
I'm
they came
excited. Yeah.
one game short last year, so we're going to be.
They lost Ohio
State,
the
championship.
Yeah, so Ohio State. Yeah, it was like a 1 or 2 point loss, right?
Yeah, it was like the last possession, I think, when we turned it over.
I hate losing to Ohio
It sounds
State,
familiar to this year, but hey, once you can get back in the gym, we'll be counting on you to get in with the current team and try to school them a little bit, toughen them up a little bit, because we'll need them a lot better for next year without Markus.
Yeah, man, I went to a few open gyms. They should be pretty good though. You know, I like the Samir Torrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like his game a lot. I think he's gonna be real good for them. I really haven't seen the recruits they got coming in, but I just heard about the kid from Minnesota that was a McDonald's All-American.
Yep, Dawson Garcia. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be pretty good for them. And I think G will have a great next year, and Kobe. Like, I feel like Kobe can fill that him and G can, you know, split that Marcus void that guys will be missing next year. And, you know, I think Jamal will step up and have a great year. And then, you know, Theo, of course, to keep doing what he's doing. So
right, yeah, just needs to get
I feel like they got the right team. You know, they got guys that, I mean, unfortunately, the season then it would have been good for Kobe and the rest of those guys to get that NCAA experience in for next year. But I mean, nobody's getting it, so I mean, it's kind of fair for everybody. But you know, that would have been great for them. But I think that for the next few years, I think they'll have a good team. You know, every year they get better. You know, and it's just like every year you see Wojo, like he's, you know, his teams get better. And that just comes with him being more experienced, and then the coaching staff also, like Coach Stan Johnson, great coach.
Yep.
And Coach Killing, some of the new guys that they got was great coaches, and Coach Nelson that left, and Coach Carroll, like those are all good guys, and that actually played the game at a high level and were really good. So, you know, Wojo got like the perfect coaching staff for these type of teams, you know.
Yep.
So I think eventually you'll probably see them get into a Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four talk. So,
all right, we're hoping so.
I think you and JJJ kind of reminded me of Greg and Jamal a little bit. You kind of got that, you know, tag team thing going on, you know?
Yeah, everybody always say that when Coach Johnson first brought them in, me and Juan was their hosts. Like, Juan had Jamal and I had G. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So, like, me and Juan were roommates. So, like, we kind of both basically had them at the same time. So, you know, we said the same thing to them. Like, y'all remind me of me and Juan when we first came in. And, like, you know, you can just tell by their relationship off the court, you know, it's bigger than basketball with them, too. And, you know, that's important with, you know, and, you know, I wish me and Juwan could have played more together, like, at the same time, because we had that connection, you know. And that's why I feel like they let G and Jamal on the court at the same time. They got that connection, you know. So,
yeah,
you know, they got a lot of talent, you know. Hopefully they get to show, especially G.
No doubt.
Well, Wojo's come under fire from Marquette fans for these last couple seasons, but if Duane vouches for him, then I guess we got to too. So
no doubt.
Yeah, man. Wojo a good dude, man, on and off the court, man. It's just, you know, everything will work out for everybody. But at the end of the day, you know, he does what he's supposed to do, and he does it at a high level and a good job. So, you know, even when he done had the best teams, he still made a way to make it work. So, you know, all his players believe and trust in him. So that's key.
Right, for sure. Well, Duane, I think we're going to end it there, but we appreciate you sharing your stories, sharing your memories. And once the world kind of settles down and you can get back out to Germany, we wish you continued success out there. And who knows, maybe making a way back out playing here in the United States someday again.
I most definitely appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Duane.
Thanks, Duane. And that'll do it for this episode of the Real Chili podcast. Pete and Pete are signing off. And, it's just another pandemic off-season podcast. We'll probably come up with like 4 a week now.
Good night, everyone.